We're looking at Billie's song, and especially the left hand. A general word about fingering for this particular piece. Now, because you'll be using legato pedal throughout, fingering is less important in some ways than it is in some pieces, because you don't need the fingering to give you the legato. The pedal will do that. However, there is such a thing as sensible fingering and not so sensible. I'll talk a bit about fingering as we go through. So I'm just going to go through some of the left hand and perhaps talk about it. So to start with, I strongly recommend, obviously it says start that first note with 5, and then I strongly recommend 2 and 1. 5, 2, 1. Then we move up to that chord. And when you go down to a low note like that, there's not a lot of point in doing it with any other finger than 5, because, you know, unless you're going further down. In fact, in this case, you are going down one step. You're going down to the E, but I would still do it with 5, especially if you're using 1, 2, 4 for that. Well, whatever fingering you're using for that, actually. 1, 2, 4. Then, now bar 3, it says 5, 3, 1. So E, B, G. For that, I actually prefer 5, 2, 1. It means making a bigger gap between 1 and 2, but it's less stretchy on the other fingers. I suggest you try both fingerings and see which you prefer. So that brings us there. The thumb is now on G, it stays on G, and then we have a 7th, not quite an octave, G at the top, A at the bottom. We've got quite a lot of those 7ths. And then, again, I do recommend following this fingering. Move your thumb up one step, and you have a D minor triad there, 1, 2, 4. Thumb goes down a couple of steps to F, and we have another 7th. Okay, I'm going to go through those few bars again before looking at the next couple of bars, which I think are the most confusing probably of the piece. So I'm just going to play up to there now, up to the end of bar 6. There we are. Now, fingering here. You could do 2, 5, 2, 1 if you like. You've just played that chord. Your next note is going to be E. 1 is probably more comfortable, but then you still need to stretch there. So you could do 2, 5, 2, 1 or 1, 5, 2, 1. See which you prefer. And then you're going to repeat the A and move your second up a step to F. So you have F and A, down to G with your 5th, not any other finger, don't go further than you need to. And then this chord, what I call stacked fourths. So you've got F, B, a 4th above that, and E, a 4th above that. So again, the total span of that chord is actually a 7th, isn't it? One less than an octave, but we've got an extra note in halfway along. So 1, 2, 5, and then back down to the G. So I'll play those 2 bars again. So that'll take a bit of practice. Try and get used to the chord shape. And again, I would do, for that one, I would definitely do 1, 2, 5, not 1, 3, 5. 1, 2, 5. And then you're going to repeat that low. Oh no, you're not. That's the second ending. So then we go back to the beginning. If you're practicing in bits, don't forget to practice the link back to where you were if there's a repeat. So and so on. I'm going to carry on now and go to the second ending. To go to the second ending, I stay on the G, 2, 1, then another seventh, C and B flat, and then low C. Just go through those 2 bars again, 5, 2, 1. Obviously this is going to be 1 and 5, thumb on the B flat, then low C with the little finger. And then we jump right up to F, 5, 2, 1. That's exactly the same shape as bar 1, just in a different key. And then we have another of those stacked fourths, but the bottom note being a flat, it's slightly more stretchy. So you've got A flat, D, G, and then down to the B flat there. That's one of those things that's jolly hard to sight read. So if I go from the previous bar, thumb goes up 2 steps, slightly open out the hand, and then to there. Then we have some more straightforward chords, that one. And again, for all these bass notes, don't go further than you need to. In other words, play them with finger 5. Another 7th there, D and C, down to low D, and then G, D, B flat. Now again, here they've suggested 5, 3, 1, and again, I prefer 5, 2, 1. So do try both and see which you prefer. I think I'll go back again. I'm going to go back to the second ending again, at the bottom, the last line of the first page. Thumb goes up to B flat, down to low C, jump right up to this F. Use the pedal, by the way, to give you time to prepare. So, you know, if you've got the pedal down, I think you can keep it down all through that bar. Let me just check. Yes, that'll be fine. So keep the pedal down. As soon as you've played that E, prepare for your next chord, because it's a bit confusing at first. And then move your thumb down a step, yet another 7th, both black keys this time, B flat and A flat. Thumb moves down a semitone to G with E flat, and use fingers 1 and 2. Don't use 1 and 3, use 1 and 2. And then we do a 7th from where we are. So the thumb repeats the G, underneath you have A, 7th down. Then, again, the thumb goes a semitone down to F sharp, and we have a 3rd below it, D and F sharp. Once again, fingers 1 and 2. So that bar is the same as the previous bar, but a semitone lower. You've had. And then for the next bar, the thumb goes down again to F natural, and we've got a G underneath, so that's yet another 7th. And then right down to D flat. And once again, it says finger 3 on the A flat, D flat, A flat, F. I prefer finger 2, so once again, try both and see which you prefer. So I'm going to go from the double bar line where it says bridge once more. Slow down a bit during that bar. Then we have a repeat of the opening section. quieter than it was at the opening. This is all just the same as it was in the first section. Now we have something different. D flat and A flat, and C, G, E. And there's yet another example of where they suggest finger 3 and I prefer finger 2, that final bar. So again, try both. You might also, the previous bar, bar 23, you might like to do it with 2 and 5 instead of 1 and 5, because you're coming from here, you've got to go there, and then you've got to, so if you use the thumb on all those, it's doing a lot of work. I think 2 and 5 is better. If that's not too much of a stretch for you, do that. So from bar 22, now those are the last 3 bars, 1 and 5, 2 and 5, and 5, 2, 1, or 5, 3, 1 if you prefer. Okay. So obviously the left hand needs quite a bit of practice on its own. Now as far as putting them together goes, I think again the hardest part is the 2 bars of the first time ending, 7 and 8, because both hands are jumping about, it seems, all over the place. Left hand is going, whereas the right is doing big chords. So there's a lot to think about. As far as the right hand goes, you've got 2 of these stacked 4th chords, A, D, G, beg your pardon, and then D, G, and C. So it's worth noticing that the second chord in that bar has 2 of the same notes as the first. It's like you're just moving up to the next rung of the ladder. So you keep the same hand shape and move your thumb to where your second finger was. And then you have a more familiar chord shape, a first inversion triad, C, E, and A, and then you keep that chord shape and move up a 4th to F. So those 2 bars you've got 1, 2, and again, with all this, use the pedal to sustain the notes and move in plenty of time so you're ready for the new chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it will take a bit of practice putting the hands together. So you've got move up, that's a nice chord, isn't it? So one thing that might help in at that point is the 2 thumbs are next to each other. Left hand is going F, B, E, right hand F, A, D. So quite an interesting chord, that the F is doubled, all the other notes are different. So that's our shape. It's worth getting used to that shape. And in fact, for that bar, which I think is hard, but one way to practice it, leave out the low Gs for a moment, just practice the chords. So you've got that one, and you've got that one, and when you're reasonably comfortable with that, just bounce down to the G. And again, I bounce straight off the G. You can hold the pedal for half the bar, so practice that a bit. Get to the stage where this feels like one thing, not 2 hands doing different things, but you doing one chord. So going from the previous bar, and so on. Second ending, I suppose, a second ending I think is easier. I'm going to go from bar 6 to the second ending. And then we have the... And again, another complicated chord that's very similar to the one we were looking at just now. It's not quite the same, but in the left hand you've got A flat, D, G, and then again the right thumb is a semitone above the left thumb, this time on a black key. So you've got, again, the A flat is doubled, the other notes are all different. So again, get used to how that chord feels. Very nice jazzy chord. And so again, you're aiming for the state where you think of it just as one thing, not as two things, if you see what I mean. And how we approach that, left hand, sorry, the right hand is almost in position if you follow the fingering here. So you're going 3, 4, 1, 3, 5. 3 is already in position for the C, and the thumb, which would have been on G, just moves up to there. So the left hand has further to move, has to do that. So hopefully you've been practicing that. Then when you put them together, again, memorize that as a whole, so your hands move as one team to the right place. The right hand hardly has to move at all. The left hand does have to move, and again, notice I'm using the pedal to sustain the note, and I'm moving ahead of time. I'll play that again. It's already in position while I'm playing the D in the right. Low B flat. So those chords, still quite complex, but simpler, I think simpler to understand and perhaps easier to play. That one. Again, right hand doesn't really move, it just slightly adjusts itself. And then the right hand definitely moves for bar 13. I know that's awkward if you haven't got very big hands. I think the rowel there actually helps in bar 16. I would make the most of that. Now let's see how the hands fit together from bar 13 onwards. So funnily enough, bar 14 isn't that much of a move for either hand from bar 13, because the right hand, you're basically playing the same notes you did at the beginning of 13, except the thumb moves to the black key. Left hand has just played a B flat, thumb moves down a step in the black keys and does that 7th. So they're all, those 3 bars, the moves are quite small, just really have to learn them. And again, you could, for practice, you could leave out the top line. If you're getting confused, you could, so from bar 14 you could do this. Same fingering in each of those right hand chords, 1 and 2, and the left is going to be alternate between 1 and 5 and 1 and 2. So the next chord as well, and then the top line melody is going to be all 5s and 4s, I think. Yes, so and so on. So bar 16, same sort of thing. Small move in the right. The rel helps us, gives us a bit more time. Jump down. And then our tempo. Now this is where it's different. Remember, right hand you're repeating the note, whereas before it went up to F. Here you're repeating the note, but play it with finger 5. So remember my recommendation for bar 23, 2 and 5 in the right, but I would follow the fingering in the left, 1, 2 and 3, or if you prefer 1, 2 and 4. So from 22 it's 1, 2 and 4 there. And as always, if it's confusing, work backwards. Work out what that chord is, how to play that. Then go from before, then maybe from, and then we have a writ this time, so hold back, thumb up to the A flat, second finger on D flat, definitely second finger, 5, left hand basically just, especially if you've used my 2-5 fingering, just slips down a semitone, and to do that. Right hand, you're going from there, and then you're actually 1 and 5 are coming in towards each other, so that was a span of an octave there, about the only place in that little phrase. But then they come in towards each other to form a 7th, A and G, both natural, and the second finger, which played the D flat, now plays a D natural. So it's this sort of closing in the fingers and second just moving slightly to the right. So I'm going to play the last 3 bars again. And leave it sounding for a good long time. And then gently lift the pedal.